on the screen, I think we'll be all set.
That part is good already.
Setting up your meeting for Facebook Live. You see me? You see Rob? Yeah.
So we're gonna want to
that way nobody can hear.
view. We're gonna speaker
That is
view.
such a cute picture of you, Rachel. I love that picture.
Look at that.
It's great.
Okay.
And then I'm going to just click share my screen to get the presentation on. Is that okay?
You are shorter than me. Do you want to raise your chair up, or do you want me to point the camera down?
You can point the camera down maybe a little. It seems like I'm okay. Is it this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, it moves. Oh. You and your little technology, you're so fancy. All right, are you able to see me now, Rach?
You're up on Facebook.
I'm up on Facebook. Hi, everybody.
I can't hear you because I have all of my sound off.
Okay.
We have one mute.
Yay. Hi, everybody. I need to look for chat. Where is chat? Polls. Chat. I'm just going to move this little chat over here. So just going to tell me that people are joining. Okay, no one else is on but us right now, so I will just wait.
You have 3 views on live Facebook.
Hi, everybody. Glad you're here. Hope you can stick around. Great content. And we should tell them, if you are on Facebook Live and you want to join in Zoom, click on the link on your Facebook Live and go in. And you'll be able to see the full presentation. And also, if you send me an address in the Zoom chat, you can send it directly to me. I will send you some Running Great Stores swag. It's all free. It's just thank you. We're glad you're here. Oh, yeah. How do you do that?
There's 3 little dots.
It says more. Yep.
Rename.
No rename.
Oh, and your participants.
Hide name in participants right here. Okay. Right here. More. Nope.
Click on my name there. Yeah.
Rename.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Rob isn't a great name for a woman. All right. Great. Now it actually has my name. Hi, everybody. Rachel Williamson here. We are going to get started. Gosh, maybe we ought to just get started. Is it 10 o'clock? 1 minute? All right. We will start in 1 minute. We're going to give more people a chance to join via Zoom. How exciting. I'm good to go. All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Rachel Williamson, and we are going to talk to you a little bit today about how you can pivot your retail business, stop the panic, and save your business, as we call it. And I am your host for the next 2 hours, Rachel Williamson. Glad you're here. It is not changing to the next screen. There we go. You are live on Facebook, so these probably don't apply to you, but if you're on Zoom, please go ahead and turn off your video and mute your audio. If you do have questions during the presentation, while we will have a Q&A session towards the end of the presentation, you can ask questions via chat. And as we have moments in between slides, we will answer those questions. We'll make sure we get them all answered before the end of the session today. So a little bit about myself. Again, I'm Rachel Williamson. I guess I've coined myself as a retail expert. If you spent 3 decades in retail, do you earn that? Perhaps. I've spent the last 30 years or so running both stores and operations for really big companies. And I've learned a lot. And I have to say that while I went to school to be an attorney, retail is in my blood and I love it. I now own a retail consultant firm called Running Great Stores. So it's not super surprising what I do. I help retail organizations really maximize how their stores operate from an operations standpoint, a customer experience standpoint, and I really believe that operational excellence is a game changer and can make a huge difference in your success. And honestly, operations is something that can really get overlooked. So my motto is consistency turns average stores into excellent stores. And if you have ever worked with me, you know that's something that I used to say all the time. But enough about me. Some of the companies that I've worked with as a consultant now for with my own company, Running Great Stores, and super excited to be part of the Springfield Small Business Development Center, and so happy. Big thanks to them for sponsoring this event today. So let's just jump right in. I love this quote by Carol Dweck that says, no matter what your ability is, effort is what ignites that ability and turns it into accomplishment. And so why do I start with this? Because no matter if you feel like a retail expert or not, or if you feel like COVID took any confidence you had on running a business and just zapped it from you, I really believe that effort, you showing up today, is going to make all the difference. And it's going to help you take the ability you have and take you a step forward. So I'm really excited about today, and I'm so happy that you're here. Today's topics, I do want to talk a little bit about the impact of the coronavirus. You know, at some point we started calling that the C word, and we didn't want to talk about COVID. And the truth of the matter is it has so infiltrated our world that it almost feels like you have blinders on if you don't address it. So I want to talk a little bit about the impact that it's had on retail specifically. And you could probably nod along and say, oh, I know all too well the impact that it's had. I want to talk a little bit about how we can face that reality to make us successful in 2021 and what I believe potentially have the best year ever that you've ever had. We're going to go into some strategies about how to save your retail store and drive sales. I'm going to talk a little bit about having a success mindset. We're going to talk about some business strategies. And then I also want to share some sales and social media strategies. Then we'll do Q&A, and then we'll talk about how you can continue to work with me. The good news is it's completely free for you because the SBDC provides my services free of charge to their clients. So take advantage of that, and there's more of that towards the end. There are also some resources that we'll be providing, and the SBDC will send that out later. So with that said, let's talk about the coronavirus and the impact it's had on retail. Well, I really could put an X through retail and say the impact it's had on the world, right? So many industries have been impacted by COVID. And the reality is that the impact is going to last much longer than 2020, much longer than 2021. Obviously, America is in a recession. And truth of the matter is there's been retail stores that have had their best time ever, their best seasons ever. And those have typically been what are considered essential. They never had to close. They're in the food and cleanliness business. They sell those items. And so they're really busy. And then there's the non-essential retail that had to close. And those are typically the ones that I work with that have really struggled. Their volume has dropped and they've been struggling to figure out how to come back. E-commerce remains really active. There's a lot of hype around e-com, and that e-com is the future and that brick and mortar will dissipate. I don't believe that to be true. I do think brick and mortar will continue to evolve. I don't think it's going anywhere. The act of going shopping, whether it's by yourself to get away or with your family, with your friends, with your kiddos, there's just something about it. And we're social creatures. And, before we know it, with the vaccine here, people will be able to resume going shopping and doing those types of things. So my goal here is that that retailers will hang in there, that they will learn from some of the things like what we're sharing today, and we'll be able to fight through this dip that's been happening. Social commerce is probably the third method reaching customers. Perhaps you've heard this terminology, social commerce. But that's really where you're able to sell on Instagram and on Facebook, and you don't even have to go to a website. You can sell right from the social site. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and I've got some tips on how to do that very well. We know that curbside pickup, anything that you can do without human contact, has been really popular. Lots of shipping from brick and mortar stores. And so these are things that maybe you haven't been doing, and we'll talk a little bit about those. And the truth of the matter is, if you want to really survive, you're going to have to take action. You got to be courageous. You got to have urgency. And you know what? You wouldn't be in retail if you didn't have both those things. So I know we can do this. I'd like to share a story about one of my clients. She owns a store. She's been in Granville, Ohio on the main street on Broadway for 17 years now. I'll get the years right. Her name is Elizabeth, and the business name is Green Velvet. When the governor announced that all retail had to close, I got a call from Elizabeth, and she said, I'm gonna have to file bankruptcy. I just got in a huge assortment of spring, all this Easter stuff, from Easter bunnies to Easter apparel for little kids. And it's not going to do me any good to have it sitting here in June when we think we're allowed to reopen. And I can't pay these bills. I can't, whatever. And so you can see from this little testimonial in this conversation, I said to her, hold on, what do you have to lose by thinking completely differently than you have for the last 16 years? And she realized that she had nothing to lose and really reinvented her business virtually overnight. It's a super cool story. If you share your email address with me, whether you share it in chat or email me later, I will send you the case study on Green Velvet, because it's a pretty powerful story. Fast forward now to 2021. She actually just reached out to me and said 2020 was the best year financially I've ever had in all the years that I've had my business. This is a business that closed for 2.5 months. This is not an essential business. This was a non-essential business. But she reinvented her business. She did curbside pickup. She started doing deliveries every single day after hours. She was doing live Facebook walkthroughs of her store. People were calling her and asking questions. And I'll tell you, she just kept after it. Now, let me just say this. Retail is not for the faint of heart. And if you know me at all, if you follow me on LinkedIn or anywhere else, you know that I say that a lot, because the truth of the matter is it isn't. And Elizabeth probably works 18-hour days. But you know what? She really figured it out. And now she's gone into 2021 with this incredible momentum. Isaac Newton, a little bit of science here. A body in motion stays in motion. A body at rest stays at rest, right? Everybody remembers that. Why do I bring that up? If we are sitting around waiting for things to get better and to go back to normal, you are a body at rest and you will stay at rest, which means your business will not get any better. If you are a body in motion, you are fighting back, you are figuring out new ways to do things. You are a body in motion who will stay in motion. And that's momentum breeds momentum. And so I just can't encourage you enough. Don't give up. But you also can't sit and wait and hope that things are going to get better. Waiting and hoping never works. So that's my favorite little story about Green Velvet. There are certainly other stories like that I could share with you, but hopefully that's an encouraging story for you with your business. So about 15,000 retail stores were predicted to close in 2020 permanently because of the impact of COVID. I can tell you that in just doing some research, I have seen numbers from 9,500 to 30,000. So certainly a lot of retail businesses struggled and permanently closed. If you're on this call, I hope that means, or if you're on Facebook Live, I hope that means that you are not one of those fatalities, retail fatalities, that you are still in it to win it. We don't want you to be a statistic. So we're hoping that the content here is not only going to help you survive retail in 2021, but thrive. So this is just a comment that I've been making. I remember saying this to Elizabeth of Green Velvet, Making changes is now do or die. Thinking differently about how you run your store is more critical than ever. And I would say, even though we're out of the dreaded 2020, this continues to be the reality. I continue to see retailers who are not making changes. They believe, nope, the vaccine's here, everything's going to go back to normal. There is no going back to normal. Normal is what we are experiencing right now today. So let's start with a success mindset strategy. I feel like the way we think about being successful is just as important, if not more so, than the actions we take to be successful. So what's a success mindset? It starts with what you believe to be true. So let me ask you 3 questions. Do you believe you can have a successful retail store? Do you believe you have what it takes to achieve the results you need? Do you believe the limitless possibilities ahead, or are you worried you're going to fail? If you were sitting here in the room, we could talk about what those answers might be. If you're on Zoom, feel free to put comments in chat on what you feel like the answers are to those questions. But when we think about a success mindset, we think about it 2 ways. We think about people that have a fixed mindset and then people that have a growth mindset. You can see, if you can see the screen, you can see on the left, there's examples of a fixed mindset. I might say, but what if I fail? I'll be a failure. How do I recover from this failure? Being successful now takes too much time and energy. It may not be worth it. I may fail anyway. That's a fixed mindset. A growth mindset, on the other hand, says, I'm not sure I can do it now, but I think I can learn with time and effort, right? You give yourself the bandwidth to say, I think I can do this. It's the little, what is it? The little train. I think I can. I think I can. You also might say, I'm abundant in ideas and innovative plans. I'm focused on opportunities and possibilities. And when we're focused on all the possibilities that can happen versus being frozen in what we're afraid of, we are considered having a growth mindset, which drives our success. Fixed mindset beliefs are super limiting. They freeze us in our tracks. What I'd like you to do, and you're not going to share this is personal, it's for you. I'd like you to take a moment and write down 1 limiting belief that's keeping you from maximizing your business. Or said differently, 1 thing you're afraid of that could be holding you back. So just take a minute and jot that down. All right, hopefully you've jotted something down. And really just writing it down helps you to start moving off of that thing that's holding you back. So it's a really good first step. So this is another phrase that I really believe in, and let's break it down. It's what I believe. So what you personally believe to be true drives how I behave, and how I behave drives my results. So if you don't believe you can ever be successful, what do you think your results are going to be? No one's here to answer that question. Why am I letting there be a pause? The answer is you won't be successful. If you don't believe you can be, you won't be, because you won't behave in a successful manner. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Gosh, I wish you were all in the room with me. So let's talk about what successful people do. There's probably more than 3 things, but let's talk about these 3 things because they're probably the 3 most important, at least in my mind. 1 is they envision a positive result for future actions. They fight negative self-talk and limiting beliefs, and they take inspired action. Again, you can't sit on the sidelines waiting and hoping that you're going to become a success. You have to take action. A growth mindset is absolutely the only way to win in this environment, period. I'll just add 1 more comment. The growth mindset's the only way to win in the world, period. when we get stuck in fixed. And I'm going to be honest, I have had a fixed mindset before. I remember, I don't know, 5 years ago working in a corporate retail environment that I absolutely loved. I was the vice president of store operations for Justice, the kids brand, tween girl brand, that unfortunately is no longer a retail store, but it is going to be alive and well in Walmart stores, which makes me very happy that little girls are going to grow up with the Justice brand. But there were some things that I had a really fixed mindset about, and I had a really great boss. Well, she's not dead. She's still alive. She's just not my boss anymore. But I had a really great boss who really helped me see that blind spot about myself. And I think she chuckles now when she sees me talk about growth mindset. But I always credit her with this one particular topic that she really helped me move past. So we all have them. We're not perfect, but we can all definitely move to growth. All right. So here's the question. Are you ready to put your limiting beliefs aside and adopt a growth mindset? If you're in Zoom, I'd love you to type your answer in chat right now. Let's see. I know we've got, who all's in Zoom? Hi, Roger. All right. It looks like we've got some comments. All right, awesome. Well, let's jump into business strategy next. All right. Nope, gotta click back in the slide. There we go. All right. So we can't really talk about business strategy and not start with cash flow. I would just say most small businesses do not have like a bookkeeper. You're probably doing your own financial books, etc. But if you haven't already done this, or even if you have, sharpen your pencil and go back at it. Are there areas where you can reduce spending to preserve cash? There are a lot of different places to think about that. Probably the biggest is how much you're spending on payroll. I know there's a lot of owners that spend a lot of time in their shop. And then there's a lot of owners that spend more time behind the scenes, and they have a team of people that work their shop. Whichever camp you reside in, perhaps you do a little of both. I would just encourage you to evaluate how much you're spending on payroll. That is the biggest controllable expense that most businesses face, most retailers especially, and a great place to preserve cash. Now, am I asking you to lay people off? No, but we need to get a very accurate view of what you should be spending on payroll. Probably the easiest way to do it, and we'll get into payroll a little bit later, but probably the easiest way to do it is to take your sales and divide it by what you're spending in payroll. You really shouldn't be spending more than 15% of your sales in payroll. That's the top end, by the way. That's what big billion-dollar companies are spending. So, but what I find is with small retail, sometimes they're 20, 30% is in payroll. The other piece I would say is, do you really need more than single coverage? I've gone into some small stores recently and seen 2 and 3 people working. And in my mind, I'm like, gosh, they're all standing around talking to each other. Why is there this much payroll? Now, in some brands, there's a 2-person minimum for safety. If that's a situation for you, perhaps you want to be the second person, again, to control the what you're spending on payroll. So that's a really big place. But where else can you reduce spending in order to preserve cash? Just a couple examples. Cancel or suspend rarely used subscriptions. I find there's a lot of money going out the door to things like this. And this is why magazines love subscriptions, or software companies love subscriptions, because you don't go back and cancel them. But I just encourage you to look at that. A really big one with cash flow is just slowing down markdown activities. It can be easy when it's quiet in the store, when there's not a lot of foot traffic, to be like, I'm just going to mark this stuff down. Well, there's nobody there to even see it. So why are you doing it? I would also encourage you, if you have a website, do not do all store or all site % off events. Sure, you see that a lot. Big brands are doing that. But what happens when you're doing that is you're marking down things. You might be marking down your bestseller. You should preserve the margin on those items that fly out the door, no matter what you do, and just mark down maybe things that aren't moving at all, right? If they've only been in a week and they're not moving, I wouldn't slash it to a markdown. And then sometimes another really important thing you can do is merchandise older product with new product instead of marking it down, because it can, re-merchandise your store and it can make it look and feel fresh. The next thing that I would encourage you is to know your numbers to the penny. Implementing a numbers-driven routine is really important. I will tell you that I've got a few small business clients who actually they don't set a target, a sales target for the day, the week, the month. And I would say now is the time to have a financial plan for your business. This doesn't have to be anything super fancy. I'm a big fan of QuickBooks. I use it for my personal business. And the Springfield SBDC has a QuickBooks expert, Nancy. She's amazing. She actually got me smart on my QuickBooks work I've been recently doing. And she can help you as well. But you just need to make sure you know your break even at all times. And you need to know what is driving your sales, what is driving your expenses. Because sometimes we don't want to look. Like, have you ever said, oh, I don't want a receipt at the ATM machine. I don't want to see what my balance is. I mean, I've done that. Like, I literally don't want to know. But did it change my balance? No, my balance is my balance. So same with this. Not looking at your numbers doesn't change the reality. So if it's a sad number, it's okay. At least you know, eyes wide open, where you are, and you can fight back from there. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. The next thing that you should be doing is thinking about how you're organizing your products to create an action plan. So look at all of your current inventory. Identify your best sellers, your worst sellers. You want to give special attention to those best sellers, because when you run out of those, your volume is going to drop too. So how do you talk to the vendors who you get those items from about availability and delivery timelines on those best sellers? I will call out to a lot of retailers are cutting down the amount of inventory they're getting in. This is causing vendors to have excess inventory that they may need to unload. They have things like mystery boxes where it's just an assortment of product, and you can get it really, really inexpensively, and then you can do sales with it. But I would just encourage you, talk to the vendor. Don't assume, oh, they're not going to do that. They're not going to reduce the price on this. They're not going to give me free shipping. They're not going to give me extended terms. Don't assume, ask. Retail's been hard for everyone, both the retailer and the vendor. So I would say talking to the vendor on what your options are is really important. What's the worst thing that they'll say? No? Okay, but you asked, because they might say yes. This is where I get, oh gosh, if I sound like I hopped on a soapbox, you'll have to forgive me. I get really passionate when we talk about the customer experience. I have a friend who owns a very big company in Canada who one of his famous lines is treat customers like the non-renewable resource that they are. And I just love that. When you think about when a customer walks in, the experience they get does a couple things. One, it influences their decision to buy. Two, it influences their decision on how they're going to talk about your brand to other people. Three, it influences their decision if they're ever going to come back or not. Can we afford for one single customer to go and say something bad about our brand to someone else? Can we afford for one customer to not choose to shop us again? Can we afford for one customer to not make that purchase today? Now, do we act desperate? No, of course not. But do we make wow experiences? I hope so. So what does that look like? There's lots of different ways to connect with your customer. Forgive the her. I should say her, him, them, whatever. It's anybody who walks in the door, young or old, it doesn't matter. Gender doesn't matter. It's anybody who walks into your business. How do you really connect with them on an emotional level? And so, there's lots of ways that you can talk to customers. Let's start with the obvious, which is them just walking into your business. If your associates who are working, or you as the owner, don't stop what you're doing to engage, not pounce, right? You can give people a second to come in and to just look around for a moment, but just a warmth in an engagement. I'm so glad you walked in today. Like, I was getting lonely in here. What are you looking for? How's your day been going? Do you want a cup of coffee? Whatever your brand does that differentiates itself, small bottles of water, whatever it is that you do that differentiates yourself from other retailers. There's no time like the present to just make that experience, connect with them, find out what what their life is like these days, and just using empathy to understand what that person's going through goes a really long way. I would say that, from a social media standpoint, if you haven't had a social media presence, start one. If you have one, evaluate it. How good is it? How engaging is it? Are your followers growing? And, are you doing anything live? A live chat, if you have a website, having that little live chat, and most of those are actually you can get free, where if someone has a question, you'll get pinged and you can respond. Just a way to make sure that you connect with every customer wherever they are, however they come to see you. Even doing Zoom is a great way. If you have customers that are still not quite ready to be back out shopping, do Zoom with them. So how will they know? How about that fresh email that goes out every week? Maybe you say, I don't have a mailing list. Do you have phone numbers where you can text customers? How do you connect with them? If you don't, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Start it now. MailChimp is a great, I'm not sponsored. I just happen to use them. They've got a really nice free version that you can use. You don't even have to spend any money. You spend money based on how many people are in your mailing list. Okay. So I think you have to get to 2,000 people before they start charging. But neither here nor there, just sending a fresh email out each week with new information and just really keeping them informed on what's going on. And it could be what's going on in your shop. It could be what's going on with you. People know you. And I know with Green Velvet, they know Elizabeth, they know her team, they love her. They're all over social media. And so you're really building a community, right? And you could even use hashtag, whatever your business name is, and then the word community after it, right? And you can start tagging things that way. But you want to think about, how can I make this customer's day who walked in the door or who's scrolling? Do you ever wonder what makes someone stop scrolling? Oops, the light just went on. There you go. It's off. I love that idea of what made you stop scrolling. And so look at the posts you've been doing lately. Are they stop scrolling worthy? Do you want to do something different? In the resources at the end of this presentation, and we'll talk through those, there's some great ways to create amazing social media posts that will get people to stop in their tracks and take a look at what you have to say. So you might be saying, I love all these ideas, but I am a party of one. I'm just me. How am I going to do all this? And it's really going to be about prioritizing. It's going to be about evaluating, what do I spend my time on right now? What are value add activities that I've been doing? And what are things that maybe I should stop doing and pick up some of these other ideas that I should do? The ultimate idea is, am I doing things that are going to drive customer loyalty, great customer experiences, give people things to talk about, right? You want people out there talking about your brand. Or are you doing things that you've just always done and they don't necessarily further your business? Those are the things you'll want to put off to the side, right? And use your calendar differently to try and build this part of their strategy. There's other things that you can consider. There are a lot of people that have been laid off. That's even hit our household with my husband. COVID is certainly doesn't discriminate. It's hit everybody, right? And so some people want to still shop, but maybe their finances are tighter. PayPal, Afterpay, Klarna, those are all more like pay in 4 options. And I would say if you haven't researched those, research that. If you're a business that sells more expensive items, that might be a great way for you to be able to still provide your customers an opportunity to buy things that they really want. Maybe it's considered a luxury item, but they can pay in 4 without paying any interest on it. So PayPal and Afterpay are here. Klarna is another one. There's a few others out there. So maybe look into those options for your business. Typically there's, there could be some cost associated, probably not that much more than the percentage you pay on a credit card. And then just evaluate your policies. Are your return policies friendly, customer friendly? Now probably wouldn't be the time to kind of stick to the letter of the law, as we'll call it. Be flexible, understand where people are coming from, and make sure that your policies are customer friendly. All right, so we'll continue on this idea of unparalleled customer experiences here on the next page. Shipping is really expensive. I noticed that more than ever over the last few months. I mail a lot of Running Great Stores swag out to people who contact me, or clients, or followers, or what have you. So I'm at the post office all the time, and I am just amazed at how expensive it is to mail a package. So it's hit me personally. I've had to build it into my budgeting practices. And so I'm certainly not underestimating the idea of free shipping is really costly. And you may not be able to offer free shipping, but I wanted to just share this statistic with you. 79% of Americans are saying that free shipping makes them more likely to buy. So let's say that you are selling at full price and you've got a nice margin built in. Let's assume 50%. Let's pretend you buy this sweater at $25 and you're selling it at $50, right? So you're doubling your investment. Because your margin is so healthy on that full price item, you might be able to afford shipping, or you might just say, I'll make it $2 shipping, or what have you. I think we've all gotten spoiled by Amazon and free Prime shipping, which isn't really free. We pay for it with our Prime membership. But when the day is done, are we more likely to buy because we know it's free? I am. Sometimes I'm like, I want to give this other website the business, but I don't want to pay $13.95 shipping. It's so expensive. So just something to think about. Again, I'm not telling you to or not to, but just want you to see all these different things that are influencing your customer's decision to buy. The next one is curbside delivery. This is funny. It's kind of a Me Too thing. Every retailer in the mall, kind of like Domino's, right? The first one tips and the rest tip. That's what happened. The first person in the mall did curbside delivery with COVID when stores reopened, and then everybody else started doing it, right? The dominoes fell. It needs to make sense for your business. If you are, in an area where there really aren't a lot of people or what have you, you're the only business there, you may not need it. But you might, customers might not want to walk inside. They might really feel more comfortable having you carry it out to them. In that instance, do you need technology to do it? No, you don't. It's not hard. But how do people know? You have to start telling them, right? So if you're doing social posts, emails to them, your website, anywhere that you communicate to the customer, let them know the things that you're offering. And you can't just say it once. It's not a once and done. It's one of those things that you have to tell them over and over and over. If they see it once and don't see it the next time, they're like, oh, they must not offer it anymore. And then they may not come and shop if this is something that's really important to them. And then lastly, if you don't offer gift cards, helpsmallbusiness.com is a really great way to get set up quickly and easily for gift cards. Customers love showing their support for brands they love, and being able to buy a gift card is one of the ways businesses have done that. So if you haven't done it and you don't know how to do it, right there, go to the website and check them out. So I talked a little bit about this already. This is really about the team. We've talked a little bit about what you were spending on payroll a few slides back. But let's go into some of the other things that you can be evaluating when you think about how much you're spending with the team. First, let's start with your hours of operation. You know, just because you've always been open X hours doesn't mean those are the hours you always have to be open. So take a look at your foot traffic. Now, many small businesses do not use traffic counters, so you may not understand it, but you might have to count people, you know, for the next week or two and just see how many people are walking in the door every day. And if you have 3 people walking in the door on a Monday, and that's your quietest day of the week, Monday might be a day that you could actually afford to close. And I know it can be tricky to reduce hours. But with COVID going on, there is really no better time to test the waters on this than right now. In fact, what happens is customers learn you don't want to change your hours week to week. You want to pick your hours and then stick to it. But then customers learn when you're open. And believe me, they're going to come when you're open. Green Velvet did this. I tried to get her to close on Sundays for the longest time. And she just was like, what will I do with that missed volume? I'm like, it won't be missed volume. They'll shop other days. And sure enough, that has happened. So she was open on Sundays during the holidays, I believe. But now in January, February, low volume times is back to being closed on Sundays. It saves you payroll. I mean, let's face it. If you are open from noon to 5 on Sundays and you're not doing a lot of volume and you have 1 or 2 people working, you know, that's payroll that in one day you might say, it's not that much money. I'd rather be open. Add it up over time. And, you know, you want to make sure that you're spending that payroll wisely. The next one is, do you know what your sales per hour are? And what do I mean by that? It's literally how many sales do you do for each hour of the day? Your question might be, why does that matter? It's going to help you determine what hours you should be open. If you don't have a single sale until 11 a.m. on a weekday, then being open before 11 a.m. probably makes no sense, right? You don't need to come in at 8 and do things. You can come in at 10:30, get the store open, and then do work tasking in between customers. You know, that's the next point. How is that in between customer time being utilized? Are you bringing in particular people to switch your floor around, or are they doing it in between customers? If they're doing it in between customers, are they dropping what they're doing when a customer walks in? You know, sometimes moving your store around can attract a lot of attention. And people can, you know, come in and be like, what's going on in here? Make them part of it. Say to them, we're doing our spring set. We're so excited. Clearance is over. Christmas is gone. Packed up for another year. We've got new things coming in. Let me show you some of the goodies that have just come in. You know, if you are a salon, you might want to talk about wonderful skincare for winter skin or dry hands, or fresh new makeup colors for spring, or, you know, whatever it is. If you're not in apparel, you know, you can find things to be excited about with your business, with your customers when they come in. And I love the idea of just making them part of it. I've seen retailers do this very well, where they're like, here's the new stuff. If you want to try any of it on, we'd love to see it on. No one's even touched it yet. And customers can love being part of that experience as well. The next thing that I'll ask about is selling skills. Do you have them? Does your team have them? Do you know what it looks like? So let's talk about what selling skills are. You don't want to be pushy or act like you're commission-based, even if you are. You don't want the customer to necessarily think that or feel stress or pressure about that. But how do you learn to connect with the customer? And in connecting with them, talk to them about your favorite things. And in doing that, create a desire for the customer to try something. And that's that skill of being able to understand your customer and be passionate about what you sell is a really good first step into improving your selling skills and those of the team. One of the best ways to do it is to set selling targets, right? For the day, And you can even do it by associate, make a fun little competition. So let's just pretend that I'm going to use a generic number. Let's pretend that you need to do $10,000 in volume for the week. If that's really high or really low for you, bear with me. I'm just going to pick a number out of the air here. So let's say you need to do $10,000. And let's say Monday is your first day of the week and it's pretty low volume. You have $500 in. And you're like, wow, I did $500. I have to do 10,000 on the week. Well, did you have a goal for that Monday? Did you know what percent of the $10,000 week needed to get in on that Monday? And do you behave differently when you know what the goal is and you're really close? Let me give you an example. A long time ago, when I worked for The Gap, oh gosh, I'm going to date myself, but you already all know I'm old because you can see me. I guess it was in the 90s. It was in the early 90s. And I was running one of the first, what they called superstores, 12,000 square feet, Columbus City Center Mall, up on the third floor. It was a really fun store. I took register reads like every 15 minutes. I was manic about it. I'm going to admit it. I'm sure my team, if anyone out there who used to work for me, I'm sure you're already saying, oh, you have no idea how manic she was about it. But I would take reads because it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I knew how close I was to the target, I would push that much harder. I'd push the team that much harder to really engage, get people in the fitting room, show them what's new, pull stuff out of the back room that isn't on the floor yet. Anything you can do to get customers excited about the product and to make your day. I like to think about it this way. Let's pretend that we're playing a game of basketball. By the way, I'm 5 feet tall. I don't play basketball. The sport was not meant for me. I am too short for it, but it works for an analogy. So let's just go with me. So I need you to make the basket. I'm going to show you where the net is and I'm going to give you a ball. And then I'm going to blindfold you and spin you around. I'm not going to take the blindfold off and I'm going to tell you to make that basket. Now, here's the question. Do you think you'll make the basket? I mean, if you do, that's like amazing. Chances are pretty good we're not going to make the basket, right? Because we can't see the target. If you can't see the target, you can't make the target. If you have a sales target and you know what you're working towards, I'm not saying you're going to make it every time. Listen, we should be so lucky that it's that easy. But I am saying you have a much better shot at making that target when you can see it than when you can't see it. I had someone recently tell me, a client of mine recently say, I was so excited to see that I made my month. It was a month later that they realized it. I'm like, what would happen if you knew during the month the progress you were making and not 30 days after or even a day after the month ended? So obviously you can see I'm really passionate about setting sales targets. I just don't believe for a minute that we can make the numbers we need to make if we don't even know what they are. And likewise with your team, let them know, guys, we need to do $300 more before we close today. What is your favorite thing in the store? Or what is who is there a client that you can connect with? Invite them to come in, or you fill in the blank, right, on what's relevant to your business. But it's pretty exciting when you can when you can see that target and you can really get people energized towards that target. All right. So here's a question. If you're on Zoom, I hope you'll type an answer in chat. But what might you need to do differently to meet customers where they are? Now, I put my answer on here. I need to develop a strategy that ensures that engages customers at every touch point, right? So I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you a minute to type into chat. What might you need to do differently? I've got a comment in there. All right. If you want to make a comment, hi, Jean. Hi again, Roger. If you want to make a comment, type it in. Otherwise, let me show you a strategy that I put together that might work for you. Oh, you've got to click back on the screen. There you go. All right. So customer, oh, I love when I see the chat light up. Hold on before I talk about this. Oh, I love that, Roger. Making deliveries to their business with a sample of a new product. Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, that's a great one. Look how thinking outside the box that is. I mean, Roger, would you ever, before COVID, would you have necessarily thought of that? Or would they have just come to you? Right? I mean, I love the idea of how we can think so differently. But sometimes we need to surround ourselves with like energetic people that kind of help us think differently, right? It can be intimidating to try and take it on ourselves. All right, so let's talk about customer touch points. I'm using a very traditional retail model. So if your business is a little bit different than that, you're going to need to tweak this to your business, but I think you'll get the idea. So let's pretend it's a retail store, okay? Customer walks in. So they're entering the store, they're going to look around. That is our first touch point with that customer. So what does engagement look like when a customer enters? What does it look like and what should it look like? Today, you might just let people walk in and maybe you don't do anything. But would it be really nice to do something different than that? What is your favorite experience in retail? So let's take a minute and I want everyone to just put your business aside and think to yourself, where's my favorite place to shop and what makes it my favorite place to shop? What do they do that makes it so engaging? So just take a second and think about that. And feel free to type into chat, like what makes it amazing? I got to try and think, where's my favorite place to shop? I love to shop. I love going into brands. I think, you know what, to be honest, I think my favorite place to shop is Green Velvet. I have to drive really far. I have to drive an hour from my house one way to get there. So you know I must like this brand to go there. So let's think about what the experience is like when I walk in. They definitely say hi from wherever they are. And there's definitely this hustle and bustle going on. I love they're always unpackaging new things. She buys small quantities so that she has a constant flow of things coming in. And so I think what I usually say is, what's the newest thing that I have to have? And then I just work my way through the store. So that's probably my favorite. I don't think it's that they do anything that unique. It's that it's consistent. Every time I walk in, and a lot of people that work there don't know me. They don't know that I'm Rachel of Running Great Stores. Elizabeth knows me, obviously, if I walk in. Okay, so that's the entering, browsing the store touch point. Let's go to the next one. Let's say that you have walked up to a product now. The customer's walked up to a product and they're looking at it. What does that touch point look like in your store right now, in your business? Does your team say, you or the team, are you finding everything you need okay? Okay, just so you know, if you've ever said those words, after today, promise me you'll never say them again, because it doesn't help the customer make a purchase. It doesn't convert the customer to buy the item. What might work better at that touch point? Do you love that sweater you're looking at? Feel how soft it is. Just FYI, it just came in. It comes in 3 colors. It is so relaxed fitting. And I love that you can throw it in the washer, throw it in the dryer, and it comes out great, right? So what was the difference between, are you finding what you need and giving them a little bit of information that might make them like that product, or might make them try it, might make them think about buying it, right? That is the tweak in the touch point. So I would ask you for your second thing, when the customer approaches a product in your store, what does that engagement look like today? And what might it need to look like? Maybe just jot yourself a note. Let's talk about the third one. The third touch point is the customer's made a buying decision. At that point, you can see the customer's holding something. They want to buy it. What does that touch point look like? Do you ring them up? Do you tell them about companion items? Do you tell them about a new item that might be coming in that's going to look really good with it? Do you add them to your clienteling service? Do you have a clienteling service? Right? So what is your touch point today when you can see the customer wants to buy, and maybe what should it be? You can jot that down. All right, let's talk about touch point number 4, the cash wrap. Cash wraps are going to start disappearing. I'm working with a client who is opening retail stores. And by the way, there is no cash wrap. There is no cash register. There is no cash drawer. So for someone who's been in retail for 3 decades, blows my mind. Although now I'm like, why would anybody have a cash wrap? You don't need it. So they use their iPad for their POS, and they don't take cash or checks, which is really nice. You don't have to go to the bank. It's kind of nice, actually. I digress. The question is, what does the experience look like at the cash wrap? Are you adding them to your mailing list? Are you letting them know where they can follow you on social media? Are you inviting them to come to your next floor set, your next new items coming in? Right? These are all, this touch point is where you either take their money and hand them their bag, or you make a long-term relationship start to grow. And then every time they come in, you're watering that relationship, right? It's like you planted a few seeds, you water, you fertilize, and over time you end up with, a really strong plant. That's what you want with your customer. And the cash wrap's a great place to do it. How about when they leave the store? What does that engagement look like? Thanks for stopping in. Or is it just quiet and they just walk out, right? You're like, oh, I said enough at the cash wrap. We're done. Maybe. But if there's somebody else in the front of the business, it might be nice for them to say, we're so glad you stopped in today. We hope you'll come back in a week, in a month, whatever makes sense for your business. And then last but not least, this touch point about when they wear and use the product. Now you might say to yourself, well, I have nothing to do with that. They're at home, they're at, wherever they are using this product. What do I have to do with it? Well, I'll tell you what you have to do with it. We're all on this thing, right? We're on Instagram. We're showing a picture of ourselves in whatever, leaning on the new car we just bought, if you sell cars, or wearing a new item, or showing off a new lipstick color, or, what have you, fill in the blank, right? But if that experience when they were in your business was fantastic, touch point number 6 is when they're bragging about your brand to other people without you paying them to do so, right? They love you and they're telling everybody else about that love. So these are the 6 touch points that I think about strategically when I think about engaging the customer and building my business. I'm hoping that this is helpful for you as you think about the touch points in your business and what you can be doing. Now I'm going to do a time check. Oh, good. We're right on time. Excellent. So I would love to see a couple comments in chat if you are feeling up to it. I'd love to know from our business strategy portion, what is one business strategy that you feel like you can go and implement tomorrow? Just one. There's a lot in here. And I think if you've attended this session, we're actually going to send you this email, but you're going to have to provide us, we're going to send you this presentation. You're going to have to provide us with your email address in order to do that. So we're going to have to get that before you disconnect if you want this. I don't know how good of notes you take, but it's an awful lot of writing because I know I'm doing a lot of talking. All right. Any comments in chat? Oh, I've got a couple. Let's look at them. Oh, Maurice's is your favorite. It's a great brand. I used to support that brand. Improving social media presence. Well, Roger, you're going to love your social media presence piece because we're going to be talking about social media here next. So perfect timing, as if you knew. Awesome. I want to give you guys a chance to turn your audio and your video on. And before we move on, ask me a live question that you might have. We've got enough time to do that, and the group is small enough. So go ahead and turn on your video if you want. You don't have to turn on your video, but unmute yourself and go ahead and ask a question. No? Come on. All right. If you don't have any, we'll just keep going.
I'm trying to see if mine works.
Roger, are you trying to ask a question? I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not working.
Are you on mute? Let me look. You're unmuted, but I still can't hear you.
I don't know why.
Unmuted. I can't hear you though. Oh my goodness. Rachel, help me. You can't hear? Oh, there you go. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Roger.
My business is more custom work. I'm more of a destination, so I need to promote personalized gifts and custom embroidery and that kind of thing. I don't carry a pick up and go type inventory.
Okay. You're going to have to mute yours.
So I don't know that that's really a question. My business travels in a different mode.
Okay. Yeah, that's, I happen to actually love that business because, well, I love embroidery and personalization and all that, but I can imagine that you would need to really get the word out creatively about who you are, what you offer, et cetera. You know, certainly there's a lot of different ways that I think you could think about doing that. I think social media is going to be huge. Like, you should be the personalization business that everybody sees when they're scrolling. And you're going to need, you know, some really eye-catching social media. I don't know if you have a social media person or if you do it yourself.
I do it myself.
Say that again.
I do it myself.
Okay. And is there any type of software that you use to create really compelling social media?
Not really. I work all day long in CorelDRAW, so I'll put up my own ads and try to photograph. I've got a pretty good system for photographing things, so I'll put up pictures of new items. I get a lot of response, but I don't get a lot of sales.
Okay. There's a couple things that you can use. Sorry, there's going to be an echo, so my apologies. There's a couple things that you could use. One of them is Canva, CANVA.com. You can do a free version of it, and you would be able to upload those great photos you're taking and still create really easy, super easy and really fast, but it's good looking templates that might be really branded and eye-catching for you. The other thing that jumps in my mind is, what are those, is there an item that you would be able to customize that you could do giveaways with, where you, to your point earlier on chat, where you're dropping things off at businesses saying, hey, by the way, I can make things like this for you, whatever, gives them a freebie that they can, maybe they're Post-it notes, or maybe it's a legal pad or whatever, but it puts your brand in front of them. They're writing on it or using it every day. And they're like, you know what, we need something like this for our business. This is who I'm going to reach out to, so things like that might be helpful. But because you're so busy and you're working all day, if you use Hootsuite, hootsuite.com, you would be able to do a whole bunch of days in a row of posts for social media, and they go out automatically. It's a huge time saver. It's free to use, and it's a real game changer. It's made a big difference for me. I've had, I was doing stuff manually myself, like daily, and now I can do 2 weeks worth at a time. And that way, even if I'm really busy, it just automatically goes out there, and I don't have to, and it's building my following and my presence and all that. But you gotta be patient with the sales part coming in, and you have to keep broadening your reach.
I have built individual stores for businesses that through a company called Order My Gear, I've customized it away from team sports to fit all of my products. And I can set up a business so that their employees can order their branded shirts or caps. Since my business was geared towards team sports and group activities, we went from a real decent business to a no business during COVID.
Of course.
So I had to reinvent, and now I am creating products to sell to gift stores and be more of a wholesaler than a retailer.
That's great.
And what has really saved the business is we've started embroidering business logos on face masks.
Oh, fantastic.
And it's gone from business logos to the school logos to crazy little slogans and people's personal statements and designs for kids. And I keep them all the same price, and the cost of the embroidery on them is far less than it would be if it was being put on a dress shirt. But at $10 a mask, and my cost is about 80 cents, I'm really loving selling masks.
That's good margin, boy, I'll tell you. That's amazing margin right there. But yeah, so go ahead. You were going to have
my retail is actually, my retail looks like a storage room. You can hardly get in my front door, but nobody comes in. I primarily go out and meet people to deliver their product, or they come to the front door and I deliver it there.
Yeah.
We've got a non-contact delivery cabinet outside the front door. So my location is a hindrance, but it is what it is. I own it. So.
Well, and look, the reality is the way you continue to pivot your business to respond, I would encourage you, while masks are huge right now, that a year from now or 6 months from now, they may not be. And so how do you begin thinking now about what that next gold mine item's going to be for you, so that you don't run up against, numbers that you can't beat because no one's buying masks anymore. So it's like, how do we continue to be strategic around what next looks like, and what's hot in the market and what might that be? And it may just be keeping your eyes peeled, and you'll know it when you see it, and being able to pivot again very quickly to that item.
I'm constantly reinventing and coming up with new product ideas.
That's great, Roger.
I'm trying to keep about 10 feet ahead of myself. So
that's great. No, that's fantastic. That's exciting. It's a great business that you're in. I'm in Columbus, and there's a company in Westerville who has a similar business, and I can tell you that COVID hit them real hard too, just because the traditional business wasn't there any longer. But like you, they've pivoted a bit, and so I think it's really about how do you broaden your reach. And how do you find more people who didn't know what you were doing, who want to know what you're doing and want to be part of that. So it's an exciting, I think it's a great business. And I think personalization, customization is going to continue to be strong going forward. But you're about 50 steps ahead of a lot of retailers who are not thinking far enough ahead and are afraid to reinvent. So kudos to you.
I've tried to kind of make a shift from personalization to decorative, and find products that are outside of what people expect from an embroidery shop. So I'm constantly coming up with some new ideas.
That's great.
And I test those out on Facebook.
Okay. So do you do social selling where you're selling on Facebook?
That's where most of my mask sales have generated from.
Okay.
And it's amazing. I have friends. I lived in Florida for quite a few years, moved back here 5 years ago. And my friends down there are all working from home, and they'll order masks, and their coworkers in Texas and California and Arizona will order masks because of that small network. And I have now sold face masks in, I think, 14 different states.
That's great. The interesting thing is there's usually a very extensive setup charge. And so it's like you want a $10 mask, you want your brand on it, but then the setup charge is $50. So how are you getting around that? Are you charging those setup charges?
I don't charge it. I don't charge it.
Yeah, you should. That's probably your forward-facing message.
Yes. When I put a logo on a shirt, a 1" by 3" logo on a shirt, you're usually looking at about a $25 one-time setup.
Right.
And then $8 a shirt or $5 a shirt. Well, I'm doing that logo on their mask for the cost of the mask, for the $10.
Yeah. Well, you can, you've got that margin built in. I got to order some masks from you, Roger, with my Running Great Stores logo that I can just give away to people as just a gimmick. So you're going to need to email me your contact info, rachel@runninggreatstores.com, so I can order some masks from you.
Okay. Or you can talk to Nancy. She's one of my best customers.
Oh, is Nancy? All right. There you go. So you know Nancy. Great.
Yeah, I couldn't make it without Nancy in QuickBooks.
Oh man, no kidding. She's great, isn't she? She's
awesome. She got me here today.
We talked about reconciling, and I'm like, I haven't done that. And she goes, oh boy, you've been doing this for a year and you haven't reconciled? I'm like, nope, not once. But you know, I was able to reconcile the year within $24. So she told me she would allow me to make a one-time adjustment, but that I had to start reconciling at least monthly after that. So my January is already reconciled to the penny. So she's definitely helped me so much. So that's great. I'll let her know that you gave her that nice compliment.
Yeah, she's awesome. So my point is with not charging the setup, in my industry, everybody says setup is where you make your money, and that might be, but it's really, in our market, it's kind of a drawback. It's kind of a deal breaker for a lot of people. Sure. And I go ahead and kind of let them know, here, I've done your logo on your mask. So there's not going to be any setup when we do your polo shirts. And then I build the sale of the logo into the polo shirt, and it's a win-win for them. And that's helped me a lot.
That's great. That's great. Well, I'm glad I got to chat with you live. Let's jump back into the presentation, and then let's make sure that I get your contact info before we.
Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
great. Thanks, Roger.
Sure,
All
thank
right.
you.
Let's see here. I don't know what I'm doing there. There we go. All right. So we're moving into our third and final section of the presentation, which is sales and social media strategies. So I'll just talk a little bit about reinventing how you sell. You all just heard Roger talk about how he is reinventing his business just continually. And that's really similarly with your sales strategies, just reinvent the way you're selling. We talked a little bit about it in the last section, but you know, your customers who know you, who use your business, love you, and they want what you're selling. And so reinventing how you're selling is just simply creating a new way to get them what they love. If you have a .com site, if you don't have a .com site, either way, like you heard Roger say, he sells a lot on Facebook. Facebook is, you know, probably one of the biggest places right now to sell for social selling. And it's why they keep changing their algorithm. They're going to continue to make it harder and harder for you to sell because they want you to place ads, excuse me, for them, you know, for selling. So there's other ways you can do it. And excuse me, I just had to have a quick sip of water. There's other ways that you can do it without a .com site. You can obviously sell manually on these social sites, Instagram, Facebook, or you can use software like Comments Sold. Doing it manually, obviously, is free. And Comments Sold has a 30-day free trial. And then it's like $49 a month. But it just depends how big your business is and if you really have the bandwidth to handle all those posts manually. Like, yeah, I want to buy that outfit that you show in this, and, you know, and then you've got to direct message them, et cetera. So just encouraging you to think about how you are harvesting sales on these social media sites. So operationalizing it, there's a couple things that you want to think about right now, and that's when's the last time you updated your Google business profile? I've noticed I do some random checks on businesses that I work with, and I find that oftentimes we forget to go back and update that our hours of operation have changed, or, you know, that we now offer curbside pickup, or, you know, there might be other components to the business that we haven't talked about. So make yourself a note in your calendar or whatever works for you to check your Google business profile frequently and make sure that it accurately reflects what you're offering in your business. And then when you are using social media, if you're doing it manually and you're not using something like a Comments Sold, you need to be consistent in your spiel on telling customers how to purchase. As I scroll through Facebook and Instagram, the businesses that do it the best are the ones that are using some sort of software that automates the process. The ones that are doing it manually, well, again, nothing wrong with doing it manually if you're just dipping your toe into the water of selling on social media, but you want to make sure that you write up a spiel and you use that same spiel every time. If it's, you know, DM me the size you need and your, you know, PayPal or Venmo or whatever, however you're going to pay. So that's really important so that you look professional and that you got to remove any pain points from customers trying to buy your item. And then as you think about the products that you're featuring, it's really important to make sure you're not featuring something that you only have one or two left of, right? If you have no size smalls in that item, not sure if you should feature it. So really consider two things. What is this going to cost me to ship? So maybe you have a home business and you have these beautiful lanterns you just got in, but they're going to cost you $25 to ship them because they're bulky, it's a big box, etc. Is it profitable for you to feature that item? Probably if you're going to charge the shipping. But if you're trying to do a free ship thing, just consider the cost to ship. So those are the two components. Consider your inventory on hand and consider what is it going to cost me to ship this item to the customer. If you aren't using any kind of tracker, we actually give you a link to this type of tracker in our resources in this presentation, which will be shared out on the Springfield SBDC website, where you can at the very least just track customer's name and address, what they've ordered, are they picking it up, are you delivering it, are you shipping it, what's happening, has it been paid for or not, and when the order is complete, is it done or not. At the very least, you can do this in Excel, you can do this anywhere. These are probably the most important 5 columns that you need to have, but at the very least, start tracking orders this way. Again, that's only if you don't have some other type of software way to track orders. And then if you are delivering items or you are shipping items, really look at your packaging. When we reinvented Green Velvet, she always did beautiful packaging, but she really took it up a notch with it, so that as customers would drive up to the front of the shop, which was closed during the spring, and you'd walk out and hand them their package, you could just see it in their faces. I remember a package she did for me, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so amazing. It just made me feel so good. So put yourself in the shoes of the person who's picking up or on the receiving end of that package, and how do you make it feel really special? Makes a big difference. So let's talk a little bit about content strategy. There's a lot of different perspectives. Should you be on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and, all these other TikTok and all these other places? Should you just nail one platform and then expand to another one? Facebook and Instagram are easy because you can share the content across them because they're the same owners. But in general, I would say, pick a platform where you've got a customer following and really work to amp that up. When you get that in a good place, feel free to expand to another one. Now, again, this is an example of a social media planner that we provide a free link to. I actually just started using Hootsuite. I use the free version. I really like it because it's automated, and I can just do 2 weeks at a time, and bam, it's all out there. And I know that my presence is out there and I don't have to post every single day. But you want to vary how you're showing your product. So I used an example. You can lay the product and do a flat shoot of a couple of key items and maybe 4 different ways to style it. You can do a video story that shows you, prepping the product or maybe trying it on. You can do an inspirational quote, because if you're going to plan a calendar, you want to have all different types of posts, not all the same posts. So inspirational quote could be a fun one, something that reflects you or your business. And then you could also even do a post of you personally packaging or personally delivering an order. Again, just ways that people that are scrolling are connecting with you, your brand, and just kind of the different activities that you take to make it special for the customer. Don't underestimate what the customer likes to see, and they'll enjoy. These are all examples of things that do very well from a viewing standpoint. You don't want to just have the same type of post multiple times a day. Vary it up, make it fun. But in general, if you're selling an item, you typically want to do an early morning post, a late morning post, an early evening post, a late evening post. So why are there so many? People are on social media at all different times of the day. And you typically want to rotate. The best practices around social media strategy is you've got, a business approach, inspirational approach, and a personal approach about you running your business. So those are just kind of some best practices around content strategy. For me, because I'm not selling a product, I post once a day on multiple platforms that I have a presence on. But if I was selling a product, I would be posting more frequently, much like this social strategy is demonstrating on the slide. So talking about virtual selling, the idea of virtual selling is to inspire, to educate, and to entertain. So how is virtual selling different than what we just talked about with social media strategy and in print. It's live. It could be Facebook Live, Instagram TV Live, live video is where it's at. And so it can be really hard to get people to do live video. In fact, I remember when I said to Elizabeth at Green Velvet, you need to go live. She's like, okay, there is no way I am getting in front of the camera on Facebook. And I was like, it doesn't matter if you want to or not. You need to. Your customer connects with you more live than on flat imagery. Yes, you can do flat imagery, but you've got to mix live in. You can do live in Instagram stories. You can do live in Facebook, any of the social media outlets. Obviously, TikTok is all video, but you want to be in front of the camera and you want to be talking to your customer. It takes a little practice and it takes the right equipment. If you have an iPhone, I only know iPhone, so I'm going to say iPhone. I'm not picking on Android. I'm sure that's a wonderful device. I just don't know it, so I can't speak to it. But an iPhone the video quality is wonderful. You don't have to go and buy special equipment. Don't have to have this fancy mic that the SBDC has provided for me today. You really can just hold up your phone, reverse it so it can see you. And the good news is even when you're recording live, it gives you a chance to discard it. It's not really live. It's kind of live. So if you don't like it, it does take a little practice. And if you don't like it, you can delete it and try again. But I can't tell you enough. Live video is it. So maybe something different than that a few months from now, but right now, this is a really important component. So here's the other thing. Once you start social selling, you a little bit have an obligation. As customers comment, as viewers comment, they may not be customers yet. They may be customers of yours. You need to respond. And that can be a little bit time consuming, but you want to go back, look at posts, look at comments, and say to people, thanks for commenting, love it, whatever. You want to use hashtags, and you can just say something like so easy, like, hey, thanks for following me. How are you doing? Anything we can help you with? And so this conversation back and forth is really just building relationships with your followers. The more you comment, the more followers you'll get. I'm not really sure how it works that way, but it does. I've got a very dear friend who is a social media strategist, and she's far better than I will ever be. But anything I know about it, I've learned from her. She's really good at it. And there's a science to it, but even the most basics will help you grow your following. So take away, it's got to be a two-way conversation. So what is one social media strategy that you could implement starting tomorrow? So maybe just take a moment, throw it in chat if you want. If you're on Facebook Live, you can comment in there, but would love to. So why do I ask these questions? Why it's like after every section, why have I asked you? And it's really because when you write it down, you're committing to it. That means you are committing to making a behavior change, and a behavior is going to drive a result. The right behavior drives the right result, the wrong behavior, the wrong result. But just writing it down, just saying, I am going to do one thing differently starting right now. I'm implementing tomorrow. All right, my chat's flashing. Let's take a look. Awesome. Automated posting on Facebook. Roger, you're going to think you got your life back. You're going to be like, where has this been all my life? At least that's what I keep saying. Every time I see all these posts going up and I don't have to do a thing. Well, I did a thing, but I did it all in one sitting. When you batch tasks, it is still much more efficient use of your time. And that's what you're doing when you do a couple weeks worth of posts at once. Doesn't mean you can't do a pop-on post. You could hop on tomorrow and be like, okay, just got this fantastic thing in. You got pop in and see it. You're going to want it. Message me if you want me to hold your size, that type of thing. Do it. Don't underestimate the power of hopping on live, but the bulk of your time spent planning for your posts, you will love. It's amazing. So final thought, the 80-20 rule, you want to focus 20% of your activities that drive 80% of the results. It's so easy to just fill our day busy, busy, busy. Go back through the list of things you're doing every day and saying, what of these things are driving sales results? And what of these things aren't driving sales results? And I'm going to stop doing those things that are not driving a result for me. And I'm going to then add in some of these new things that I learned today that are going to drive results for my business. All right. Now we're going to open it up for questions. Do we have live Facebook, Rachel? There's 2 Rachels in the room. Do we want to open it up for live Facebook as well? Okay. Okay, awesome. So time to ask questions, guys, whether you are on Zoom or you are on Facebook. You can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask, and I'm going to do my best to answer them. No questions?
I feel really stupid about hashtags. I don't understand how they work and how to use them.
Okay. No, it's a good question. And I would encourage you can learn a ton about them. I'm going to give you the Cliff Note version. But if you Google why hashtag, hold on, I'll pull it up right now. There's so much information out there, but basically hashtags are a way to organize topics. And so it's easier to find posts around a certain thing. So let's say, Roger, since you asked the question, let's say that I'm looking for masks online. If I do hashtag masks, it's going to bring up anything in that feed associated with masks. So for you to hashtag, you're just going to hashtag it for people to be able to find you when they're searching for something. And so you want it to be relevant. So it could be hashtag personalization, hashtag masks, hashtag embroidery, hashtag, like just think of hashtags that make sense for what your business is and what you're doing, and then use those hashtags.
But when or where do I use them? Do I use them on Google? Do I use them on Facebook?
You use them on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, anywhere that you are on social media that you're doing a post. So if you use Hootsuite and you start planning your posts out, when you go in there, you'll see there's like a little box. You type in your little couple of sentences, whatever you're going to say about the item, the image that you're posting. And then before you save that, go ahead and put your hashtags in at the bottom of that message. And then those will just show up in your, in your feed. But you have to do it every time. So if you do 2 weeks worth of posts every day, one a day, you have to add hashtags to every single one of those 2 weeks worth of posts.
Okay.
And they may not always be the same. There may be some that are the same, like hashtag embroidery, hashtag personalization, hashtag mask. You might always use those. But if you're talking about a new polo shirt, for businesses, then you'll do a hashtag for that polo, whatever, maybe it's the brand and the word polo or what have you. So you want to make them standard for your business, but customized for what that post is about.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other Facebook questions? All right. So, oops. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the resources that we have available for you. And again, these resources are going to be posted on the springfieldsbdc.com website today. And so you'll be able to download this. But here are just some social selling resources. You'll see this social media content planner and downloadable. That's all free. there's this social media today, which has just got some really interesting things in there about social media. So just want to share that. There's some tools, to do like live video and all that. Lighting is really important. So I'm a big fan of ring lights. I have a big one. I don't really like the big one as much anymore. Now I've gotten smaller ones. They even have ones that'll just pop right on your phone, on your smartphone, or on your laptop, or on your iPad. So there's a lot of options beyond this one. This is the tall one. But if you're mobile, if you're going places and you want to be able to shoot wherever, get one of the smaller ones. There's a lighting box kit. I love this. This allows your photography to look really amazing. You're going to do flat photography. So like, let's just pretend you're Roger and you lay like a mask or a shirt or something down. It's this lighting box kit, just lights it up beautifully with that white background. Also suggest wireless earbuds for when you're doing a live video, so that you cut out as much background noise as possible. The idea here is not to look like, to look very professional, not to look like you're doing, like just a project from home or something. You want to look like the professional business that you are. There's the social seller's guide to standing out online. And some of this creating stories, the free photos, and stock images, Unsplash, Pixabay. I mean, there's a lot of places to find really great free photos. I love Shutterstock, but it's very expensive to buy photos. They'll usually give you a certain amount for free, but there are a lot of good free options. They typically just want you to recognize the photographer. And so you'll want to make sure you do that. It's just kind of a nice way that we give back for using a free item they've given us. If you don't see one there, you might have to buy some images, but in general, I find that these two are my go-to, and I don't know if I've ever really bought any images at this point. For your mailing list, I like MailChimp. There are a lot of mailing list companies out there that are actually a whole lot prettier than MailChimp. But if you just are starting from scratch and you want to use something easy and free, I think it's a great place to start. I still haven't switched over. I like some of the other brands out there even more, but they're very costly. And so I do try and take my own medicine about thinking about what my overhead is and what I'm spending. And so I've still stayed with the less expensive version. So that's why I've got MailChimp here. It's just MailChimp.com. We talked a little about comments sold. Again, you guys know I don't sell products, so I cannot say that I've used comments sold, but I know people who use it and they love it. And it's a monthly subscription, so there isn't a long-term commitment to it, which I also like. And I like that they've moved from a 14-day free trial to a 30-day free trial. The trick with free trials is you have to write in your calendar 2 days before it's going to expire, so you don't end up getting charged if you do in fact want to cancel it. Just a little tip from Rachel. Learned the hard way, but now I have a process I follow. So I want to share with you, I think I shared this at the beginning, but the SBDC has hired me to work with you as their retail expert. It is completely free for you. And so you can sign up with me by contacting the Springfield SBDC directly, or you can contact me and I can make sure that the SBDC is aware that we're working together and that you'll be tracked in the in their what would you call it, in the like software, the database. Thank you. So that all of our conversations are tracked there, so that if you need help from other folks at the Springfield SBDC, they're able to see the work that perhaps we're already doing together. My expertise is in the retail side of things, retail boutiques, stores, websites, etc. But I have been in business for over 30 years. And so, I can also assist with general business suggestions, recommendations, support, etc. So that is it. I think we ended a few minutes earlier than I thought. Hopefully that's okay. We'll give people the gift of time back, but I just want to say thank you so much for joining us live today. And check out my website, www.runninggreatstores.com. If you would like to receive free swag from me, this is not a trick. There are no strings attached. I just love working with companies like Rogers and buying things with my brand on it, and I will send those out to you. You would just need to email me, rachel@runninggreatstores.com, and share your address with me, and I will mail swag out to you. So with that, I will just say thank you, everyone. I wish you the best in your retail business in 2021. My triumph is when you triumph. And so wishing you all of the best, and talk to you soon.